Welcome back to the Promotion on a Budget podcast. We're back again, me and Josh in the studio. And if you haven't checked out last week's podcast, it'll be somewhere up here or down here.
Normally on that side.
It's normally on that side. Normally on that side. Go check it out if you haven't already. Anyway, today, big game week. Obviously, we're recording this on a Sunday. Yesterday, there were some big results. And
don't forget Friday night as well.
Well, it wasn't a big result. That was a bit of a snooze fest, but we'll go on to that later. Anyway, Josh, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you doing? I bet you are absolutely loving life.
Yeah, I think I might be a bit better than you today.
Yeah, let me put this to you. How does it feel to finally be able to tell me that you're top of the league? It's only taken you 12 game weeks, considering
we had a slow start.
Considering you were going to walk the league.
Oh, we still could. I mean, when we I would say walk the league, but we did piss it a few seasons, 2 seasons back. We didn't get top of the league till around the same sort of time we are now. Anyway, less about Norwich being top of the league. We'll get onto that properly later. First of all, big talking point from last week was Wayne Rooney and the whole Philip Cocu. Obviously, he actually said midweek it was Philip Cocu's time to leave. And obviously, Rafa Benitez has now been seen as the bookie's favourite to take over. Rooney actually wants to take over Derby as full-time. Does he still...
It's a really interesting one, I think. I mean, I know we touched on it a bit last week and the story's kind of materialised as the week's gone on. But obviously we see Wayne Rooney did actually play yesterday and he captained the side to their 1-0 defeat, unfortunately for them. It wasn't to be kind of the dream start. But... obviously, he's come out and he's publicly said that it's Cocu's time to leave. Rafa Benitez is a very, very solid manager, and he's proven it.
Yeah, but will he go to Derby?
He's proven it at Championship level before.
He has with Newcastle. Newcastle are a much bigger club.
They are indeed, but this is the thing. This is where you look at other names that are being thrown in the hat. I mean, I've seen John Terry's name come in.
Yeah, John Terry's name.
It's a lot of these are the kind of generational talents, so to speak, that we saw when we were growing up.
Yeah.
Because this now is kind of at the point we've seen Frank do it with Chelsea.
Yeah.
We've got Rooney currently in the driving seat
at Derby, and you got
Gerrard at
Rangers. Yeah.
These kind of talents that we would have grown up to are now beginning to take over managerial jobs, and it's a case of how does it kind of work? I mean, Lampard is currently experiencing a good start to the season at Chelsea.
Very good start, yeah.
Rangers, obviously, Gerrard has done very well, especially in Europe. They've been very successful.
But also, we've seen other people like Scholes, who was involved and didn't do too great. Sol Campbell hasn't really got a great Gary Neville as well, not a great manager. Just there's players from that era that we grew up watching. That
it's a gamble, and I still stand to my point last week. As much as Rooney does want to take over at Derby full time, I do still think he's got some playing time left in him.
Well, he's only 35. So there's maybe 2 or 3 years.
Well, from what I believe, he actually had quite a good game yesterday as well.
Yeah, well, we'll move on to Derby's game later on in the podcast. But a new rule came through before this weekend's game. It's a 5-sub rule. Now, this is a big rule. This is a very big rule because it's going to benefit the bigger sides in the league, such as Norwich, such as Watford, Bournemouth, Swansea, Stoke, teams like that. It's really
the teams that have got the kind of not only the talent.
The squad depth.
Not only the talent in the starting 11, you're looking at who they've got on the bench and you're looking at how much disposable money they've got. Because realistically, we are about 5 weeks away from the January transfer window. Now, if this rule is here to stay, teams are going to have that in the back of their head for the kind of foreseeable future. They're going to go into the transfer window and go, right, we've got this. We're happy with how we've got our starting 11. They might have been happy when they've got 3 subs.
Yeah.
And they've got a bit of rotational depth on the bench. 5 subs is a whole new dynamic.
Yeah.
Because not only are you now considering what you've got on the pitch, 5 is like 5 people to change is practically half the starting team. If you take the keeper out, it's half of the outfield you can change at different points throughout the game.
You look at Norwich against Middlesbrough the other day. You look who they had on their bench: Timu Pukki, Mario Vrancic, who
players who last season actually did in games, not obviously for the whole season. If they performed for the whole season, you'd still win in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But players who, on their day, can put out a performance. Players that realistically, you're looking at having a decent market value as well if you were to have sold them when you came down. I think just to kind of come away from that, and I'll put this in just kind of a bit of a perspective. Teams like Watford, who have managed to hold on to the likes of Etienne Capoue and Ismail Assar, and they've obviously still got Troy Deeney. A lot of the debate being, is he past it? He's obviously very happy where he is. Even Bournemouth, they've got some brilliant players that they can bring.
Exactly, that's the thing.
Swansea as well.
Stoke have a very, very decent squad depth, and those sort of teams will definitely benefit from this.
I think they're going to really benefit from it. I mean, even
who will it hinder?
Reading, for one.
Wickham,
I'll come on to
Coventry, Rotherham.
It's got to be Luton.
Luton, yeah.
It's basically the smaller teams with smaller budgets, less squad depth.
They're going to really struggle.
Are going to struggle as a result of this. It's a really tough one. I mean, I don't know what was your view before they brought it in? Because I had a very, very strong view on this.
I can remember in the Premier League when it was brought in last season with Norwich, and it ruined us because I can remember playing Chelsea, and they could bring on, the likes of Olivier Giroud or Tammy Abraham, and we'd bring on the likes of Adam Eder, who's a good striker, but he's not Premier League quality.
Not at 19 years old.
No, and we don't have the squad depth last season. This season in a Championship, we do.
Completely.
But then you look at all the Wickhams and Lutons who would have been in our position, what we were in the Premier League last season. They're not going to have that squad depth. They're not going to have that quality of players within their squad to bring on and actually change the game. Like you say, it's half the squad being changed. Like Norwich can bring on, Timu Pukki, Josh Martin, Onel Hernandez when he's back, Todd Cantwell.
A lot of kind of decent level Championship, if not low level Premier League players. And this is obviously we're not just highlighting kind of the teams that we've mentioned. I would even go as far as to say a team like Huddersfield, who have recently come down, if they get it right, will be able to benefit from this. It's a very fine line, and I mean, for me, I was very much against it coming in, knowing how, again on a personal level, knowing how we're set up. But I'm not here to sit here and drone on about my personal views. At the end of the day, the 5-sub rule has now come in, and it's going to be really, really interesting going forward now to see how teams will go from where they were before the rule came in to where they're going to end up when the rule either stops, if they choose to change that again, or if it runs to the end of the season. It'll be interesting to see what teams can string together some form, because I think this is going to have a massive impact on injuries.
100%, and I think you can see why it's brought in. You see the amount of players, especially in Premier League football, even in the Championship, that have been picking up injuries. Teams with having a list of injuries that's bigger than my Christmas list when I was 5 years old. Like it's
circling the Argos catalogue. Right?
Yeah, I was one of those. But that's the thing.
But you highlighted everything on every single page, didn't you?
Yeah, pretty much. You can't be too greedy, can you? But that's the thing. Injury lists are so long. So this 5-sub rule benefit will allow players, to not play as many minutes.
It's such a cramped season as it is, because obviously we've started later.
But then you do need the squad depth
at the same time. Exactly my point. And I think this is where a lot, like we were saying last week again, a lot of Championship players now are getting called to international duties. And where we've just kind of come off the back of playing a lot of games in short space of time, the international break for those who didn't get called up is a nice time to be able to train, to try and learn new dynamics, new tactics, and that's great for clubs, I think, for clubs to be able to actually have a break, to be able to work on what they're missing, especially for teams who are in poor veins of form. 9 times out of 10, you will see them then be able to kind of come around and return a positive result. But then you've also got the kind of line of, because so many people are going off of lots of games in a very short space of time, they're then flying to wherever they're needing to play for their international team, then flying back. I mean, if you look at it in this respect, again, correct me if I'm wrong, we've played this weekend, there's midweek fixtures, there's games next weekend, then there's more midweek fixtures, and then there's another weekend of games.
Exactly.
We're hitting crunch time, and I mean, we always will say in football in the English game and how the English leagues are set up, November, December time,
even January, even going into January as well.
And then you've got to look at April as well. I mean, but
April
I would say kind of now.
Yeah, these next 3 months. These next
few game weeks will be huge. If big teams are losing big players, or not even big teams losing big players, if teams are losing their key players, that are making
even the smaller teams. Exactly.
That could be costly for seasons.
Anyway, we'll go after 5-sub rule now,
so
and we'll start.
Lot of stuff there.
We'll start reviewing these. Well, I say reviewing. We'll go into review, but we're going to branch off to other things. But we'll start off with Stoke Huddersfield. This is one of the games of the weekend, an absolute thriller, a great advert for Championship football.
A 5-goal first half. What am I on about? 5-goal first half. Wow.
Yeah,
you don't often see 5 goals in a game, let alone 5 goals in 45 minutes of football. Tyrese Campbell. I'll let you go on. I'll say those 2 words to you. You talk to me.
He's on form, isn't he now?
He's doing very, very well for himself. At the rate he's going, if Stoke fell off, I could see him getting a good move in January. If they fall off.
But will they fall off?
Will they fall off?
Because
7th in the league as it stands.
They have scored 9 in their past 3 games. They're averaging 3 goals a game at the minute. They're looking one of the side's most informed teams. They're coming up against Norwich Tuesday. If they get a result there, then hello, Stoke are looking dangerous for the season.
We're talking about Stoke. This realistically is the Stoke we all expected when they dropped down from the Premier League. 100%. I never expected them to fall out of the Premier League at the time they did. Look at the players that they had when they did.
Jack Butland, Joe Allen.
Obviously, they've not been necessarily able to keep hold of those kind of players. Obviously, we saw Jack Butland leave to Crystal Palace for 500,000 in the summer. But you can say the exact same thing about Huddersfield. When they came down, they had some quite good talent.
Especially for the Championship.
They just didn't. I just don't think they were able to utilise it in that second season in the Premier League. We talk about second season syndrome in any league. They just really did suffer from that. But both of these teams have got the quality on paper to do very, very well.
Yeah, and obviously Huddersfield did actually score 3, which is actually interesting because they're now living life without their main striker. That was Carlin Grant last season. I think he got 20 plus league goals. And they've got Mbenza in, who looks like a very, very, very decent striker. He scored at the weekend as well. And they're scoring 3 against a Stoke side who don't concede a lot. They're usually very defensively, very assured at the back. And, Huddersfield, in that sense, will be very proud of defensively, not looking good. And a player at Huddersfield that I personally really like because of his roots to Norwich, again, probably a bit biased, but he's...
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a bit. But Harry Toffolo, going forward, seems like a really, really good left-back. Defensively, does seem like he's a bit... a bit naive at times, I guess.
Realistically, any defender who in a game has been a part of a defence that's conceded 4, you can't always. You can't sing their praises. At the end of the day, that's one game.
Yeah.
Over the season, Huddersfield we can't ignore. As much of a shame as it is, because obviously they were not too long ago a Premier League side. They've struggled since they've come back into the Championship, and even this season they're really struggling for form. I believe they've not won within. I might be wrong. I don't think they've won within their last 3. They're really kind of struggling to find that grip that is going to be able to kick them on. It's one of those kind of games that really. Before this game, I looked at it and was like, right.
Snowfest. I think we all thought 0-0.
I
thought Stoke would have won.
I thought Stoke could edge it. I thought it was either going to be a 1-goal margin, which obviously it was.
But not.
I didn't expect 7 goals.
Exactly.
Not at all. But like we said, it was an entertaining first half. Not so much of that in the second half.
Oh, we still got 2 goals, which is nice.
We did still get 2 goals, and to be honest, it could have been more.
It could have been.
Because Huddersfield came into the game in that second half.
Yeah.
And they potentially, fans would look at that and be like, we were actually quite unlucky not to get something out of the game. But enough about Stoke and Huddersfield. I'll let you lead this one. You talk about the other team that scored 4 this weekend.
Well, so obviously, Josh's team, Reading, lost 4-2 away at Bournemouth in the top of the table clash at the time. Big comeback in that game. Obviously, you lot were 2-0 up at half-time goals from Lucas Shaw and Sonny Aluko. But then Bournemouth, Solanke scoring twice, Lewis Cook and Juna Grunewald with the goals there. Josh, how does that make you feel? You're 2-0 up at half time. You know, you think, even if I was 2-0, if Norwich were 2-0 up at half time, I'd be like, and I was in your position, top of the league at the time, I'd be like, yeah, we're secured top of the league for another game week. That second half.
So,
what happened?
This is the thing. I mean, before the game, we've gone on the back of, we've had some horrendous form going into the international break. And just like I was saying, you have that mindset, you come back from the international break, have you managed to kind of get to a point where you can spin it around and kick on? It was always going to be a tough game for us to come back to. 100%. The early kick-off, Sky Sports.
Bournemouth away.
Bournemouth away from home. Started the game really, really strong. Obviously, we won the penalty in the 3rd minute. Alpha Semedo with some incredible footwork. I mean, looking back on it, I don't know if you've seen it yourself.
Yeah, I've seen it.
If that tackle from Begovic, it was obviously an unlucky one for him to concede. But if that was made a couple of years ago, before the kind of protection rule came in for the double punishment, Begovic would have been sent off. I mention that because he makes a very, very key save in about the 88th minute to keep them in the game, where part of the ball was over the line, part of the ball was on the line, part of the ball was like the kind of pitch side. He had a very good game, and the reason I mention that is that takes a lot of mental state to be able to kind of concede a penalty, so in giving it away, then he's conceded it in the 3rd minute of the game, to then pull off some of the saves he has made during the game. Especially the fact that he then went 2-0 down. Now, you talk about Shoni Aluko. That's his first goal in a Reading shirt for 672 days.
Jesus Christ.
In that time,
that's a long time.
In that time, he did have a 6-month loan spell out to Beijing Ren in China. However, to go that long without a goal,
the goal that he scored was very good.
It was a very nice strike.
Ovie Ajari, a big,
liquid football to get up to that goal. And like you said, I wouldn't say that Bournemouth really did much to threaten us in that first half. And that's the most frustrating bit as a Reading fan in this.
And in the second half,
you've gone into half.
In the second half, did they again press that much? Did they?
They had 4 shots. They had 4
shots on target and scored all 4. Doesn't that say it all?
There's something going wrong.
They've literally done a Reading on Reading.
Yeah.
They've done a Reading on Reading. But then again, let's talk about Lewis Cook's goal. What an absolute peach that was. I'm guessing you just stood there like, fair play, I hold my hands up.
I slumped back in my chair. My head went back and I was like, you know what? I can be mad at the defending, but oh my word, what a strike it was. If it was against any other team and I was watching it as a neutral, I'm sure I'd have been up on my feet, because that was an incredible strike. The fact that it was his first goal for the club as well.
Wow. Get your first goal.
Wow. That's a goal of the month contender right there. If not, he might have already won it. I can't think of many that are going to contend with that one. And the fact that made it better is that it went in and clipped the woodwork on its way in. They always look better that way. But like you said, a brace in that game for Dominic Solanke.
Is he maybe now starting to find a bit of form in the Championship? Obviously, he was bought for a really big sum of money.
Very nice finish for his first one. Second one.
Yeah, what do you think of Raphael's goalkeeping with that one?
Oh my goodness gracious me. I mean, the man's kept us in a lot of games in the past. But all I can say, and I mean, if any Reading fans are watching this, let us know in the comments. Do you think it's time that we look at the likes of Luke Southwood or Jökel Andersson, who's obviously doing very well on an emergency loan at Exeter City at the minute? He's keeping a lot of clean sheets. Or even to the point where we've got Sam Walker still available. Are other goalkeepers potentially going to be needed? I mean, whoever's seen that goal, Bournemouth 4th, what on earth was a keeper thinking? That's not his first mistake he's made in recent games. He obviously made an absolute clanger against Coventry as well. He had the ball was kind of coming straight at him, and it's bounced off him and gone into the back. It was a a very good strike, but you have to look at it coming from somewhere. And again, I think for me, Thomas Estevez, the young lad from Porto, 18 years old, he made the top 40 nominees for Golden Boy. He got run absolutely riot by Bournemouth's left-hand side in that.
Danjuna Grunewald.
Danjuna Grunewald. And I'm going to point this one out as well. Lloyd Kelly was running at him as well and made him look like an absolute...
You look at Danjuna Grunewald's goal, was it? where Estevez was just caught inside out. He was caught in two worlds. It was poor defending. He just let Greenville get past him with ease, and a simple goal in the end for
again. Keep beating it, his near post. But I'm not going to take anything away from Bournemouth in that second half. They were clinical. They beat us.
Sharper.
They looked a lot sharper. Again, this is where I think the 5-sub rule helped them a lot.
Oh yeah.
A point to note: Reading didn't actually name a full squad for the game. We were actually missing a player off the bench compared to what Bournemouth had. That's just, again, this is why I said I think Reading are going to suffer from the 5-sub rule.
5-sub rule, yeah.
Because we don't have that depth that we need. And obviously, the main point that has come from that game, it put Bournemouth top of the league temporarily.
Yeah.
But it's kept them up there.
Well,
Reading
they're
have
not
dropped.
top of the league anymore.
No, of course they're not. Reading have now dropped from first all the way down to sixth.
Still in the playoffs though, mate. Come on.
In the playoffs, but again, we'll come on to games.
I mean, you said
you said
to me at the start of the season that you'd be happy with mid-table football.
I would take finishing the top half.
You know, you're currently sixth. Yeah, you had your X and run at the start of the season. You are dropping off form, but it takes one win to change that. It takes one win to change that form.
Yeah. And like I say, it's going to be an interesting next.
Anyway, any stats coming from that game? Because you were.
I have got you.
You've got me some absolute mad stats.
Some mad stats. So obviously, that loss for Reading, the win for Bournemouth, that's Bournemouth's continuing the streak of Reading having not beat them since 2001.
Back when Bournemouth was shit as well.
Reading have gone from having the best defence in the league after the first 7 games to having the worst in the entire 92 in the last 5, having conceded, I believe it's 15 goals. So averaging conceding 3 goals a game.
Christ.
Not a good one for that.
No.
That's the first time that Reading have conceded 3 or more goals for 4 games in a row since 1998. And a final one for you is that we are bad at football.
And there's Josh's stat attack.
And at Bournemouth are good. It stands to the point. As much as I can ramble on about the Reading side of it, I've obviously watched the game as a Reading fan. Bournemouth take nothing away from them. They will be up there at the end of the season.
Right.
Mark my words.
We'll move on to the next game of the weekend. QPR 1, Watford 1. Now, this was a big game. Obviously, Ben Wilmot, who is on good form, scored an international duty for the under-21s, came into this game, scored for Watford in the first half. Great, Watford 1-0 up.
It was a very good finish as well. Very tidy. Kind of set-piece routine of sorts from a dead ball situation. Ken Semmer whipping the ball in. Wilmot meeting it kind of with very, very close range, and realistically he had nothing to do but kind of
touch it in, but again, takes that build-up play to it, isn't it? And that set piece
is one of them, because you look at the result before we kind of go into depth. Watford are the only team that were in the top 6 that, apart from Reading, failed to pick up all 3 points. You look at that, and for me, if you're wanting to challenge,
you've got to be picking up points.
When your fellow teams up the top side of the table are doing well, picking up results, you have to do the same, especially against a QPR team who this season have underperformed.
Now I'm going to speak about QPR because QPR, in the second half, everything changed. So obviously Watford made 2 defensive changes at half time. And that really hindered them because obviously it's given Reading the front foot for the second half. Reading, QPR, sorry.
Look, right. Okay. So there's a difference between these blue and white hoops and those blue and white hoops. They're fake, they're real.
Okay, I don't care. But so the Watford defensive change at half time. Put QPR on the front foot for the second half. Allowed them to. Are you pouring yourself a drink?
I am.
Fair enough. Allow QPR to kind of have a bit more possession, a few more chances in the game, and then, they were unlucky not to win in the end. Obviously, got that equaliser late on in the game. Should have had a penalty, had a goal disallowed. So, yeah.
QPR were all over Watford in that second half, I would say. They actually did have the ball in the back of the net again.
Yeah.
Except it was punched in by Lyndon Dykes for QPR. So, Elias Chair, it was a very tidy finish for QPR. Again, it's one of them. Like we say, Watford should be picking up the points there. But I just want to touch really quickly on QPR.
Yeah.
They sold Ebereze in the summer.
20 million.
Rumoured fees of about 20 million. I don't know if it's been confirmed.
Probably will be about 20 million. He was a good player.
He was a very solid player. If you thought of their team now, can you tell me where they've strengthened?
They haven't strengthened at all, and that's the issue with them.
Because
they haven't spent that 20 million. They haven't invested back into the club, and that's really affected them. You can see they're at the bottom side of the table.
They're in. I believe the bottom. I think they're
18th in the league. I think.
And as much as that money, obviously, you can never tell. That might have gone into paying off some debts that they had. I don't know what the financial state of QPR is personally, but any kind of fan looking at someone of that amount of money going out, you would expect someone to at least come in to fill the void. QPR obviously started very, very well in that first game and got a good result. Then their second game were beaten by Coventry.
Yeah, it kind of went downhill.
It's gone downhill from there, unfortunately.
But yeah, from this game, obviously, we can see Watford again should have picked up all 3 points. QPR in the end were unlucky not
on
to.
Paper, Watford should have picked up all 3
points. I think
points.
Watford, as the whole of the game, QPR should have had a penalty. They did have the ball in the back of the net. Watford would be like, well, we were lucky to get a point out of that. You know what I mean? So, and QPR will actually feel hard done. QPR will feel hard done by with not getting all 3 points. Anyway, we'll move on to the next game featuring my team, Norwich. Middlesbrough 0, Norwich 1.
The best defence in the league against the biggest talker in this room.
Hi.
The one who runs his mouth the most. And that's exactly what you're going to do, but not yet. You can't talk yet. I'm going to start off and just go on to Middlesbrough. In going into this game, obviously, like we've said before, they're a very, very good system. It works very well for them. They've got a good manager, some decent players to be able to execute that. And like we've said, they've actually performed very nicely this season. They're away from the bottom of the league as they kind of were for a lot of last season. And you look at them now, and they have potential. They can find the net to be a threat. Now,
but a Neil Warnock side doesn't really tend to find the net that
But
often.
if we're talking about finding the net, you have to bury a penalty, and I'll let you talk about this. Talk about the Tavernier penalty.
So, the Tavernier penalty
just after the second half.
Mid-50s. Yeah, mid-50 minutes, I think it was. Middlesbrough get a penalty, rightly so. Ben Gibson with the foul. Tavernier steps up, and it goes in. But he slipped. So obviously, it kicked. I guess his right foot kicked onto his left foot, and then went in. So obviously, it got disallowed. So
Ivan Cavallero was doing his best Tavernier impression, was he?
He was.
Right, son.
But yeah, so even Tim Krul saving penalties when they even go in. So you know what I mean, best goalkeeper in the league. Anyway, actually moving on to keeping on the Middlesbrough side of things, they were 11 games unbeaten. They were unbeaten at home all season. That's come to an end because of Norwich. That's big.
And again, it shows while we're talking about penalties,
Timu
Pukki from the spot.
That was such a cool penalty as well.
It was the difference between the two sides, and
it's such a cool penalty. And he's got his mojo back now. He's got 5 goals in 7 games for club and country now. That penalty that he took, you could see, his confidence is back. Last season, on the back end of last season, especially during 2020, his form just wasn't there. He wasn't scoring from open play. Obviously, championship season's come. He's got a few goals here and there. He's now on 5 goals this season, which isn't too bad, considering we did have a slow start to the season, but he's getting the goals in. Scored 2 for Finland over the international break. Starting to look a lot better for him. But Norwich, that's now 8 unbeaten for them. That's big. They've moved to top of the table now.
You finished?
No, I'm not finished. I'm going on to actual stats versus Norwich.
When?
Eden, shut up.
Don't mean to the camera.
Sorry, cameraman. Eden. Okay, Eden. Right, nice.
Check out Eden's socials in the description.
Yeah, in the description. His Instagram. Go check him out. He's absolutely in tears. Anyway,
because all Doeke does is talk about Norwich.
Well, literally, the whole subject is about Norwich. This subject is specifically about.
We're living in his head.
We're living top of the table went free. So what do you mean?
Were you there for the 10 game week? So
yeah, but
come back to me if on game week 22 you're still there and no one's overtaken you. You won't still be there.
Anyway, moving on.
I love
Anyway,
this. This is brilliant.
Can I carry on?
Go on.
So-
carry on
8 games
loving Norwich.
8 games unbeaten, now top of the league. Obviously, that could all change Tuesday because if they do lose to Stoke, we could drop down to to 7th going into next weekend. However, 8 games unbeaten is very big. Anyway, stats between Middlesbrough and Norwich. A Middlesbrough player hasn't scored against Norwich for over 6 years.
I mean, there are a few years you have to bear in mind that you didn't play them.
There was two years that we didn't play them. 2
because
years.
you decided to become a yo-yo club, but hopefully,
Yeah.
one
But
year.
it's only 2 years.
Hopefully, 1 year you might actually stay in the Premier League.
2-3 years that we didn't play them. But at the same time, the last 5 meetings we've had with Middlesbrough, we've won 1-0 every single time. Goals from Maddison, Tom Tribal. Who else scored? Team of Pookie, Onel Hernandez and Pookie again. All those 1-0 wins. Obviously, we also beat them 2-0 in that playoff final, which they still hate us for. We beat them 2-0 in a playoff final going to the Premier League. You know, they're still not over that.
Realistically, I wouldn't say it's necessarily hate. It's probably a bit more PTSD.
They do have it. Yeah.
Speaking as someone who's lost in playoffs before, and I know Eden can back me up for getting knocked out of playoffs. You do still hold that to certain clubs. I mean, I still feel pain every time someone mentions the word Danny Williams to me.
Well, I know. We'll move on to another big result this weekend.
I think this was huge, personally.
Forest 0, Barnsley 2, and Forest.
Come on, Barnsley.
Forest are back to square one now. So we spoke last week about Chris Hughton coming in, defensively assured manager, does like his sort of Neil Warnock-esque football.
Put it this way. I'll summarise the game for you very quickly, very easily. 2 goals, 2 shots on target, 2 minutes, game done.
It was also in very late on. It was in the 80th. Both goals coming into the 80th minute there, and Barnsley are now on a very decent run of form. They're starting to pick up points here and there, and
they're up to mid-table, I believe, with that.
Exactly. Obviously, I think they were everyone's favourite to go down as well. Obviously, they were very lucky to stay up last season. So.
It was a great escape from last season. I absolutely loved watching it personally.
Did you?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't love watching Wigan go down because they had a point deduction, but
no, in terms of the fact that they were literally written off.
Oh yeah.
Like in any sense, a club that is written off
and survives
and manages to survive is brilliant. We saw it from Bolton.
Yeah.
A couple of years.
Seen
back.
it in Leicester in the Premier League. But
any great escape is great. Obviously, the situation with Wigan was horrible to see, but actually, it wasn't Barnsley that stayed up because of that. I believe they actually managed to climb a little bit higher. I might be wrong. Either way, it was a brilliant show from them.
And they square one.
Again, they've
still got that play that final day playoff. They're missing out playoff. They've still got that playoff syndrome now, and that's really
it's not even the playoff syndrome because they didn't even make it.
But I think that's the thing. They missed out on it, and bizarrely, I don't know how, because they were 7 points clear of it. I think with even 3 games to go.
With Nottingham Forest, I don't know. I think whether it's players. It can't be management at this point because they've already changed management. Unless the Chris Hughton system is...
Or maybe it goes up higher in the club.
This could be early signs of it not working. It could go up higher within the club. But realistically, it could be a case of, are they missing their fans? Now, as someone, I don't know how recently you've been up to Nottingham.
Oh, yeah, I've been in Nottingham a few times.
They've got a very,
very strong fan base.
Their fan sets are great. They get behind their team. And they really kind of gear them up for a game. And I think they could be missing that.
Maybe the same with Derby as well, but I think Derby is more...
there's something bigger going on at Derby County.
Anyway, we'll go on to another big result of the weekend.
A very strange one at that, because I would not have called Wycombe Wanderers being able to hold Brentford. Exactly. Brentford, who were a goal away from the Premier League practically last season, if you put it into that respect. And they've drawn 0-0 to the team.
They're starting to pick up points. They really are starting to pick up points, and they're gonna. If they keep holding teams like Brentford to draws and that, they will gradually climb up the table, and we could see them leave the relegation zone
very, very soon. Actually, I believe they can climb out now. At midweek, they could get out.
Exactly. So they're not doing bad at all. And Brentford, however, they're not hitting form. They're really not hitting form. That playoff final loss is
it's a shame because
really
like we said in the last episode, Ivan Toney's come in has been nothing short of incredible. and he's proven that as a striker. They've had results where they've done really, really well. I know for a fact, having seen this Wycombe team play a number of times, they have a system and they stick to it. Gareth Ainsworth is a brilliant, brilliant manager. He's brilliant with what he can do.
He loves his music as well, doesn't he?
Does it?
Yeah, you're not saying he's like some sort of... He loves rock music and stuff.
That's a new fact for me. I'm learning something every day.
Exactly. But you can tell by the hairstyle as well.
No, talking about learning something every day, did you see what happened with a certain Wycombe striker within the week?
Was this the beast himself, Adebayo Akinfenwa?
It is about the beast himself, Adebayo Akinfenwa. Akinfenwa has this week announced that he will be joining #United at some point at the end of his career. So obviously he'll kind of see himself right to the end of where he can
with Wycombe.
I don't know whether it'll be with Wycombe. He might go to somewhere else.
I think maybe at the end of this season with Wycombe, he may just go # after that.
We'll see. It's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. But for Wycombe, obviously, they're going to keep an eye on that and see what's going on with that situation.
But yeah, it's big news for grassroots football, and
not only that,
football.
It's going to be big news for grassroots, big news for YouTube, but also very big for the marketing of Wycombe.
Oh, 100%.
It's going to be great for their marketing.
Oh, 100%. Anyway, well...
I don't think there's not too much we can obviously really say about that because it's very much in its kind of baby phase, so to speak. But let's move on and we'll talk about we'll go for the derby that occurred on the Friday night first.
Yeah. So obviously with Coventry and Birmingham, I think the only really thing to talk about is the stadium. Obviously Birmingham played away in their own stadium. It's Coventry, and Coventry had to travel 20 miles.
Do you reckon they had to go in their own away dressing room, or do you reckon they'd have been like, no, we're having? No,
I'm pretty sure they had to go into their own away dressing room, which would be interesting. Well, apart from that, it was an absolute snooze fest of a derby. I could easily fell asleep watching it.
fairly boring.
There's not really anything we can talk about on it. There's not.
Apart from the fact that both teams kept a clean sheet and they've both picked up a point, now that's really...
Yeah, I think both teams would have probably taken a point from this game. Anyway,
at the end of the day as well, you always like drawing in a derby game if you can't win it. You'd rather take a draw than a loss, wouldn't you?
Anyway, we'll actually go on to a derby game. Derby County.
Ah, you're so funny.
Did we get that one? Okay. Versus Bristol City.
We're not rolling.
What?
Nice joke.
Oh.
Psych!
Cameraman Eden with the jokes now. Anyway, so Derby lost 1-0 Bristol City. However, they did seem to impress under Rosenau and Rooney. Obviously, Rooney actually played.
Yeah, so Liam Rossini was actually listed, I believe, as the head coach for the game, with Rooney being on the pitch.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, he did play the entire game and captained the team. They've lost 1-0 at home again.
So
it's a loss.
Very similar.
It's a loss. The stats were fairly similar. They dominated in possession.
Yeah.
But the kind of thing that you'd really look to kind of take from this is that they've only lost by a small margin to a team in Bristol who looked very sharp. They had a rough patch. They're looking sharp again. I reckon if they again can keep this momentum rolling, they'll be challenging the likes of Swansea, Norwich, Watford, Bournemouth at the top end of the table. And it'll be interesting to see who can join them. But right now, the way that Bristol City are going...
We always see Bristol City start well, but then drop off significantly. This season they've dropped off, but they've picked up form again and they're back on the horse. If they can keep that horse going, we could see them in the playoffs this season. Anyway, we'll move on to the next game because there's not really much to talk about the rest of that game. We're going to Preston 1, Sheffield Wednesday 1. Big news in that game was Windass getting sent off for Sheffield Wednesday.
It was an early sending off, and to be quite honest, they've managed to do quite well to keep the score at 1-0. I mean, it's always difficult when your team goes down to 10. The fact that Windass got sent off within, I believe, he got sent off on the 17th minute. Now, that's a long time from half-time, and they went in at half-time at 0-0. And then Barkusen scored just after the start. But then they're still playing the entire second half with 10 men. That's impressive. To me, it's very impressive.
Again, but it's not the result they wanted. However, for Preston, it's back to winning ways after that 2-1 loss against Rotherham prior to the international break. So they're maybe looking to turn around form and start playing a bit better. But apart from that, in that game, there's not really a lot else we can go on about.
No, I mean, it's one of them games that kind of...
You expect.
It's got a bit of potential. but it didn't really deliver, especially with the early red card. That could have been a very entertaining one for the neutral, but here we are.
Anyway, we'll move on to Luton 1, Blackburn 1. Have Blackburn started to lose their spark now?
Here's the interesting one that I've seen just on losing their spark. Has Adam Armstrong gone missing?
He hasn't really been... He started the season so well, and that's when Ivan Toney almost went missing, because Armstrong was doing so well. Ivan Toney wasn't talked about, and now it's the other way around. Armstrong's gone missing. Tony's the main striker in the league at the minute. But yeah, Blackburn have really...
It's weird.
They've dropped off.
They're now sat mid-table.
But they're signings that they made.
I said at the start of the season. You said it at the start of the season. And obviously, we are still 12. We are only 12 games in. They have a lot of time to recover.
Obviously.
But the kind of games that you want to be winning are the games against teams that were tipped to go down. But Luton are not the team that they might have seemed at the start of the season.
100%. They're putting the stamp on the championship now, and they're really saying, look, we're not having this second season syndrome. We're a championship side. And like you said last week with Luton Town, they're putting out performances that any Luton Town fan can be happy with. And a 1-1 draw against Blackburn, who were seen at the start, at the first four games into the season, as a dark horse of the league. And Luton will be very happy with that.
You can't ignore, Blackburn are still the top scorers in the league.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you can't ignore that.
I've been firing on all cylinders, from all angles. They've done very, very well in terms of scoring. And I would think that Luton will be very, very pleased with how they're still going. They're in the top half. And who knows? Could Luton put in a late dash in?
Imagine that. What if they win the playoffs, get to the Premier League? Jesus Christ.
Well, it could be very interesting. Obviously, we've already seen Luton Watford as a derby game once. Who knows? Could fans be allowed back in by the time they either play next, or if they find each other in the playoffs? That could be a tasty one.
That's a whole other subject. Anyway, we'll move on to the next game. Millwall versus Cardiff. Both big strikers, as in height, scored in that game. Smith for Millwall and Kiefer Moore for Cardiff. And apart from that, it's not really like else like going on that game.
It was quite a scrappy game. Yeah. I think Cardiff did kind of have more opportunities, so to speak. I believe Millwall only had 2 shots on target in the whole game. But again, Millwall are one of those sides who are capable of grinding out results, similar to what we said with Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
They are capable of grinding out a result.
The Brexit-esque side, so to speak.
As much, yeah, I guess you could call it that. But yeah. It's a different style of play. They love a target man. They obviously, like we said, Matt Smith has scored.
Yeah.
John Daddy Bodvarsson came off the bench for them and does what he does best and brings some energy into the game. It's a very nice style of football, and it does get them results.
Swansea, another side nearing the top of the table, beat Rotherham 1-0 this weekend. Big win for Swansea.
Yeah, again, it's another one of those teams that, like I was saying earlier, one of the teams up in the top end of the table, scrapping for trying to sit on pole to head themselves back to where they believe they belong. And I mean, realistically, they could have done it last season. They had a very good squad. I'd say they've still got a very good squad now.
Yeah, I think they've got a good squad now. Andre Ayew looks brilliant.
He was again incredible for the end of last season. But they're up to 4th place against a Rotherham team who you kind of look at it and go, right, Swansea, a team not too long ago relegated from the Premier League, and obviously we've spoken about Rotherham being a potential yo-yo club. Rotherham can't hold too much.
No, it's a difficult place to go to, Swansea.
Yeah. It's a very difficult place,
especially in the form that they're in. And I think Rotherham done very well to actually keep it 1-0, and it's not too bad for them. I think I do think from that result they won't be too downhearted by it, and they will get better results. Obviously, that 2-1 win against Preston in the previous game week for them. It's very good. They'll get results like that. But yeah, against top of the table sides, I mean, losing 1-0 away from home isn't too bad after all.
No, realistically, there's a lot of things that they can take from what they've managed to achieve this weekend.
Yeah.
And I don't think Rotherham will look at that as a game they were expected to win against a Swansea side, like I say, who can and will provide big results this season. I have no doubt about that at all.
100%.
And I again think they'll be up there at the rest of the season. And again,
bounce back for
that's
Swansea,
going to be one of the teams that again will benefit from the 5 subs. And I think Rotherham have they got that squad depth?
No, again, that they might be one of the ones that get hindered by it. But a good bounce back for Swansea after losing in their previous game week. But yeah, I mean, it's looking quite.
It's looking quite tasty.
Quite tasty now.
But let's go on to the weekend games. Obviously, if you haven't seen the last week's episode, we talked about the midweek games. You can check that out by clicking the bell here. And the first game of next weekend is the Friday night West London derby fixture. So we obviously did touch a little bit on
a bit of
Saturday's games last week. However, we're going to go into a bit of pace, but we're going to go into
Should we do score predictions?
Should we do score predictions?
Should we just do score predictions?
Score predictions.
Quick fire, score predictions.
Eden, do you want to come get involved?
Score predictions.
Score prediction. Come get involved. Come on.
Well, if you say behind the camera, we'll just ask for Eden's opinion.
Oh, it's a bit harsh. All right, yeah, we'll get Eden involved as well. Right, so first game, I'm going to stand that up there.
Here.
Brentford host QPR. Doeke, go, score prediction.
1-0 Brentford.
2-1 Brentford.
1-0.
Different, fair enough.
Go.
Early kick-off on Saturday. Reading host Bristol City at the Medeski Stadium. Doeke.
2-1 Bristol City.
Eden.
2-1 Bristol City.
Josh. 3-0 Reading. No, I'm kidding. That's too optimistic. I think we're going to nick it. I reckon we're going to do a 2-1. I've got to be optimistic.
It could go either way.
It could go either way. Next game. Watford hosting Preston North End at Vicarage Road.
1-0.
3-1 Watford.
2-1 Watford.
Sheffield Wednesday host Stoke City.
2-0 Sheffield Wednesday.
2-0 Stoke.
1-0 Sheffield Wednesday.
Birmingham Millwall. Ooh, come on, Doeke.
Quick fire.
Bit of tempo. Come on. I reckon it's
1-0 Millwall.
2-1 Millwall.
2-0 Millwall.
Norwich Coventry. 4-0 Coventry.
No, you're lying. 3-1 Norwich.
2-1 Coventry.
2-1 Norwich.
That's 2-1 Norwich.
I don't know, Blackburn Barnsley.
Blackburn Barnsley. 1-0.
1-0. Oh, do you know what I'm going to go with? 2-1 Barnsley. 2-1 Barnsley. I reckon they're going to do it. I reckon they're going to do Eden.
2-0 Barnsley.
2-0. Ooh.
2-1 from Louis as well. Rotherham host Bournemouth.
3-0. 3-1 to Bournemouth. 3-1 to Bournemouth.
I reckon it's going to be the big result of the weekend. I'm going to go 5-2 to Bournemouth.
I think 4-0 Bournemouth.
You know this is football, not like cricket or rugby, mate. Like you do know.
Well, rugby would be in like the 30s or 40s, mate. Bear in mind, I've just seen Bournemouth play. I know what they can do.
They can score goals. Anyway, Cardiff versus Luton. Ian starts off.
I think it's going to be 2-1.
To who?
Cardiff.
0-0 snooze fest.
1-0 Luton.
Derby Wickham. Huge game.
Do you know what?
I'm back in Wickham.
I'm surprised. I'm going to surprise.
2-1 Wickham.
4-2 Wickham.
3-0.
You reckon they're going to score 4?
I reckon Wickham going to score 4. I think they're going to get some prizes.
Oh my word. Huddersfield against Middlesbrough. 0-0.
1-1.
No, I think 0-0.
And is that all of the games in the Championship? No,
No.
we've got a Sunday game next week. So Nottingham Forest hosting Swansea.
2-0 to Swansea. Eden?
1-0 Swansea.
3-0 Swansea.
And that is all.
That is
The predictions. Next weekend.
That's a very quick fire. There's going to be some very interesting games over the course of the weekend. I know you're looking forward to dissecting them as much as I am. And
As
that
always.
will be in next episodes.
If you want to look at the predictions and the preview we got for the midweek games, go check out last week's video, as Josh said previously. Anyway, is that it? That is it. I believe.
It's kind of it. But what I'm going to go on, and we're going to do a little bit, and I'll let you outro. Thank you again, Eden, for filming. Thank you to everyone who has supported us over the last week. Thank you to everyone who has clicked like, subscribed, and viewed last week's podcast. Really would appreciate everyone to share this week's like usual. And a big thanks again to Louis Beneventi for letting us use the studio space.
It's a great studio space.
It's a great studio space. If you haven't already, go and check out Imperial Wharf. That's the team that I play for, the team that Doeke is a part of, the kind of media side of.
As well as Eden.
And of course, Eden with his photography skills as per usual. The kits are sat behind us that we've newly launched. If you are interested in them, there'll be a link in the description to buy them before Christmas. Doeke, take it away with the outro.
Anyway, guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe, drop a like, click on the notification bell, give it a little tickle, and I know you love it.
Eden loves it.
I know Eden loves it. Yeah, go follow the socials.
This has been Promotion on a Budget. Cheers, guys.
We'll see you next week.